And we are live. Welcome back to the Content Swap Podcast. You are joined by Parker and
Aaliyah.
And if you're new to the Content Swap Podcast, this is a podcast in which the two of us swap a piece of content with each other at the end of every episode, engage with it for the week, and then we discuss it during the episode. Before we dive into the content for the week, we like to provide a little news/life update. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. If you'd like to skip ahead, we left the timestamps for the content in the description below. So go ahead, take it away. What's new with you?
This weekend was really fun and really filled with joy. My best friend got to come visit. We went to a farm and got a small farm, a mini farm, and got to play with all the animals.
It was a petting zoo.
It was a petting zoo, but owned by this woman, just at her house. I don't know, it's just really cute.
It was cute.
We got to play with the baby goats, and she had 2 cows, she had pigs, she had chickens. It was just so much fun. I don't know, I love farms. I just want a farm of my own. And so yeah, that's the southern girl in me. I'm yes, farms. So that was nice, and we got to show her around and do a bunch of cool stuff. And then finished off the weekend with Cozy Hobby Club. So I host a Cozy Hobby Club. It's always nice to have people come. Trying to do it once a month. And yeah, people just bring fun things that they like to do. And it's cool, I didn't even know that was a thing. What are you working on? What are you doing? And yeah, I don't know. I just really appreciate all the beautiful people who show up to that and hang out with me. Because they don't have to, but they choose to spend an hour with me. So really nice. In terms of content, you got me a Poison Ivy comic book.
Oh, I did. Yes.
Yeah. And I love it so far. I'm I've never engaged with comics aside from that time you assigned me the Batman comic.
Long Halloween.
Yes, which I really enjoyed that. So I don't know. It feels like this comic book that you got me, I am a little confused. I feel like there's some knowledge I'm supposed to have before reading this, but this is volume 1, so I'm a little confused.
Yeah, it can definitely be that way, because sometimes these storylines are introduced in the middle of an existing continuity, so maybe there's something that's whatever version of Poison Ivy is currently canon in the DC comics, this is probably what it is. I don't know if she's been doing other things, but this is definitely, to my knowledge, the first time that there's a Poison Ivy specific book.
There's it starts off kind of abruptly, and I'm wait a second, was I supposed to have read something about how she's here in this position on the very first page? And I thought maybe we do a flashback, but we have not. So I'm I guess that's just knowledge I was supposed to have.
Is it that, or is it just one of those things where a story says, hey, we're going to start in the middle of this thing, and it's just, you just kind of pick it up along the way,
See, I don't know, because I don't know how comics work. So I don't know what's typical.
I mean, it can be both. It can be either. It could be a character will walk in, and the main character will already know who they are, right?
But it's not as simple as that. It's this is so okay, I'll just explain it.
Yeah.
Basically, Poison Ivy has lost all her powers and is now turning into a regular human, basically. And it starts off with she basically almost died. Harley Quinn and this doctor brought her back to life, but at the risk of her losing her powers. And so now she's really upset about it, and she's I'm trying to connect to the green, I want my powers back. And
was all of that conveyed through dialogue, or were there panels that showed that sequence?
It was conveyed through dialogue, and you see that her skin's not green.
When that happened.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And so I'm huh? I was well, how did we get there?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd maybe check out Wikipedia. It's usually very knowledgeable.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I can still follow the rest of the story. So
You like it so far?
I do. It's like, it's cool because it's so, like I talked about in last episode, I'm watching the Harley Quinn show, which I really love. And so it's like all these things that I'm seeing in the show are in this comic book. And I'm like, even down to like Harley Quinn was wearing like a shirt with Frank on it. And I'm like, it's Frank. I mean, I don't know if his name is Frank in the comics.
Frank being Poison Ivy's plant
Plant.
in the Harley Quinn show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, Frank's on her shirt. Like, cool. So I don't know. It's just really fun. I'm like, am I a comic book girly now? Love this.
Oh my god. Well, you got to read actual comic books.
This is a comic
This barely
book.
counts. Yeah, I mean this counts. No, like this for sure
Yeah.
counts. You got to buy more than one.
Oh, I'm like
You
fully
can't.
invested.
You're not a comic book girly yet.
I'm not comic. See, I want the women's comic
Yeah,
books. I don't want.
There's
I don't care
there's
about
tons
Batman.
of those.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you got to go read Batman. Like,
Okay.
I'm some like you know.
Yeah, I'm like, are you saying the
I'm not
women's are not real comics?
No, I'm not, and I'm not gatekeeping or anything. Like, there's
Yeah.
tons of female-led comics.
Yeah,
If that's what you're looking for,
that's exactly what I want.
go snatch
Yeah.
them up. There's some real. I might have an old volume of Wonder Woman that I really liked.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I want Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Well, do some investigating. Whoever resonates
I want
with
Catwoman.
you. See
I want.
yeah, Catwoman has her
I
own.
want these.
books.
I like a good anti-hero and I like a good villain, and that's what I want.
All right, yeah, Catwoman has her own stuff.
Cool. Great. So yeah. So really enjoying that. I feel like there was something else I wanted to talk about, but maybe not. Maybe that's it.
Something you're crocheting or
No.
reading, watching.
No.
You,
I thought it was something
what
I
have
was
you been
watching.
You just been watching Harley Quinn.
Yeah. Maybe that was it.
All right.
Yep. So
Anything
that's me.
else?
No. What about you?
Okay. Yeah, for me, in terms of content, like not a lot, I guess. Like I haven't been like as intensely playing games this week. I've been mostly focused on my reviews and trying to revive that. So I had this idea for a review redesign on my Instagram, and I showed it to some of my friends who are designers, and they gave me some really good feedback that I was maybe getting carried away with the idea, and that I should really I was perhaps ignoring the main problem, which was the actual writing of the reviews. So I took that advice. I simplified the redesign idea, and I finished it, and I'm happy with it. And so now I can like just focus on the reviews. But I was really hung up on like all the reviews that I missed for a while, and I was like thinking like, oh, maybe I'll do individual reviews for all of them. And when I told my friend that I was thinking about that, he was like, nah, just round them all up again. And so that's what I did. I rounded up everything. I think it was, I want to say there were 33 things that I reviewed in like one post. So that was like outside of work, that was taking up a lot of, like, it was like all I could think about. I was like, I just want to get this done so that I can stop thinking about it, so that I can move on and just, write reviews for new things without worrying about the old things. And now I'm in that position. It's like the old reviews are taken care of. The thumbnails are designed. Now all that's left is me and the reviews, and I'm like, thank God. And now I just gotta write those before those hopefully don't pass me by. So yeah, I already have like some notes written on some stuff that I can already write reviews for. So I'm looking forward to posting those and not thinking too much about it. Just writing a review and then posting it, and not trying to like strategize what day it gets posted or what time it gets posted. Just like when it's written and I feel like it's done, post it, and it's done,
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it started out for me when I first started writing reviews like 5 years ago. I didn't think too much about it. I wasn't trying to like say something crazy. It was just like, here's my thoughts that I had on this thing, and here's why, and here's how I'm rating it, and that was it. And there's no reason it has to be anything more than that. So, yeah, I'm like, that's a part of myself that I feel like I have not dabbled into as much in the past like 3 years, and it's just something that I enjoy doing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back into that like quite a bit. Yeah, aside from that, I mean, yeah, well, on the book front, because we were downtown and walking around, and you stopped at the yarn store, I decided to go to the comic book shop. And you told me like, oh yeah, if you see a Poison Ivy book, let me know. And that's when I got you that Poison Ivy book that you started reading. But I asked the woman at the cash register if she had any recommendations, because I was looking around and I was seeing a lot of things that caught my eye, because I used to read a lot of comics like 10 years ago. And I saw like a Batman comic book that was written by an author and artist team that wrote The Court of Owls that I really liked way back when, and they teamed up for like a newer comic recently, and I was like, oh, like I kind of want to get that. And then I saw in the manga section that they had a bunch of Junji Ito, which is like a Japanese horror manga writer and artist, and I'm always seeing like people are trying to like adapt Junji Ito's stories into like animation, but it's never like that good. But everybody's always like Netflix has done it, and people were like, it doesn't really capture the true essence and horror of the original story in the manga. And so I see like all of these Junji Ito books, and I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna read my first Junji Ito book. So I asked the woman at the cash register if she had any recommendations there, and she recommended one to me. She had read all of them, and I was like, this was actually the first time I think I was having a conversation with a person who worked at a comic book store, and I was very enthralled by it. I was like, oh, this is so exciting, because I used to read all this stuff, but I would just order it on like Amazon. I would never like talk to anybody. I would just pick stuff out.
No, you gotta go to local places.
I know, now I'm at a local place, I'm talking to somebody,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, what kinds of like Batman comics do you like? And I'm like, oh, I like The Long Halloween, I like Dark Victory, I like Year One, I like Dark Knight Returns. I'm like, oh my god, like this is so fun.
Yeah.
So I loved that. And so I was like, I saw this Batman comic book done by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Have you read this? She was like, I haven't, but if you're looking for something Batman related, I recommend Batman White Knight. And she explained the story to me. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. It's kind of like this commentary on vigilantism and how Batman is kind of like the problem. And it's about like the Joker.
Batman is the problem.
Yeah. It's like the Joker basically becomes a sane person, and then his whole crusade becomes pointing out all of the messed up stuff that Batman does, and like how everything that he does is illegal, and how he's just like, the Joker's like, yeah, I stole a scooter and was riding down the street, and Batman was chasing me in the Batmobile, knocking people over and stuff, like putting people in harm's way. He assaulted me.
He's canceled.
Yeah.
Canceled Batman.
I was like, that's a really interesting story. So there's multiple volumes of it. I think there's 3 volumes, maybe more. But yeah, I picked up the first volume at her recommendation, and I read the first chapter of it, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to reading that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. It's different. It really got my head thinking, like with Harley Quinn and their depiction of Batman on that show, and how he's kind of like treated like a joke. And then
He's also the problem on the show.
Yeah. And then reading this comic book and them treating him like a problem. I'm like, I'm here for this take on
the Batman slander.
Yeah, I am here for the Batman slander, because like I love Batman.
Yeah.
But we've seen the Batman being a hero story so many times that seeing him treated like a problem and like diving into that nuance is just so much fun. So
yeah, I absolutely love heroes that suck. I love it so much. It's so great. I'm like, yes. Point to their flaws.
Yeah. So that should be a fun read. I'm looking forward to maybe just like reading more comics. I might go back to that shop the next time I decide I want to get some more comics.
Yeah, I've been in that shop a few times, but I want to like go in there and really look at them now.
Yeah, it was my third time in that shop, and I bought 3 books, and I was like, perfect, like one book to make up for every trip I've had.
Yeah. I don't think I've purchased anything from other than I think I might have gotten one of the blood on the tracks from there.
Oh yeah. I think I remember
that. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I don't think I mentioned it last week, but I did start a new game on my Switch called Dave the Diver. It's an indie game. It's about diving into the ocean, catching fish, and during the day, and then serving those fish up at a sushi restaurant at night. And it's a lot of fun. It's pretty simple. It's just like diving. You're given like little missions. There's a lot of like depth to it, not just literally in the ocean, but in gameplay systems as well. And it reminds me of, I don't know, like Roller Coaster Tycoon, in the sense that you have to like manage a sushi restaurant. There's like a resource management element to it, but then there's like an exploration element of, going into the ocean every day, and you have like certain objectives. It seems like there's like some sea people that live underwater, but I don't know anything about them, so there's like a mystery going on there. But all along the way, I'm like finding new fish, and I'm catching those fish, and I'm like, oh sweet, like I just took out a shark for the first time. Now I'm gonna go serve shark at my sushi restaurant, make a bunch of money on sharks, on shark sushi. Yeah.
Oh, that's sad.
And you have to like hire people, and everybody that you hire has like their own stats, and you're trying to get the restaurant more notoriety, and there's like an Instagram app called Cooksta, and you're trying to get as many likes as possible. Literally as you're like serving food at night at the sushi restaurant, you see like as people leave, you see little like social media posts popping up. It's like, yeah, it was pretty good, I enjoyed it. And then the next day before you go diving, you can check Cooksta, and you can see like pictures of people's food, and you can like them and stuff. It's just really cute. I'm enjoying it quite a lot, and it's like I think that is like a really nice, refreshing change of pace, because I think just with all my games that I've been playing, I've been like kind of like not rushing, but just not savoring them. Like I'm just kind of like trying to finish something so I can move on to the next. And because a lot of things are just releasing all the time, and it's like you got to keep up. And right now, it's like nothing is really releasing until next year. Like I think the next big thing that I'm super duper excited about doesn't come out until the very end of February next year. So I'm like, perfect. I can just kind of like relax, play whatever game I'm playing, not feel like there's a rush. I would like to finish Alan Wake 2 before the Game Awards happens the first week of December, but we'll see if that happens or not. And that's pretty much everything that's going on with me.
Nice. Well, speaking of fish, should we get into our first
snap
piece of content?
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be any orcas in Dave the Diver.
Yes. Well, I hope you're not cooking them.
Who knows? I hope not, because
that'd be very sad.
It's highly frowned upon to eat whale.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of that said, yes, I was swapped. I'm like forcing
Assigned.
it too hard. It's not called content assignment. It's called content swap. Actually, I need to put the trash out. Could you talk for like just a couple of minutes?
Why don't you? I'll do the trash. You go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, so I was assigned Blackfish. It's a documentary that you've probably heard of that came out in 2013. It focuses specifically on SeaWorld and the orcas at SeaWorld. So, like Shamu. Most people are familiar with Shamu. So the story really, like, it follows that, but in order to understand the greater story, the documentary goes back in time to, I think it's the 70s, where they're talking about how in the 70s, fishermen used to essentially like kidnap whales from the wild. And they would do it in the Puget Sound in Washington. And when they were doing that, one of the orcas that they caught, orcas being killer whales, one of the orcas that they caught was this 2-year-old male named Tilikum. And Tilikum was taken to a place called SeaLand in Canada, which was basically just a pool of 2 big whales. And it was really sketchy looking, and one of the trainers got killed. And that's not really that much of a surprise given the conditions that were at SeaLand. But after that, SeaLand pretty much closes, and they sell Tilikum to SeaWorld. And they talk about how, they're like, oh yeah, everybody thinks like SeaWorld, they've got, education and lots of resources, but it's like, no, SeaWorld is a theme park. I'm sure they have educated people to a degree there, but at the core of it, it's a theme park. It's not about like conservation. And the documentary mostly interviews people who are former trainers at SeaWorld, and I think 100% of them all basically said, yeah, I had no prior experience training animals. They just were like, can you swim good?
Yeah.
And boom, I'm a trainer at SeaWorld. So I thought that was kind of insane. So yeah, Tilikum, he was at SeaLand in the 70s, but then he went to SeaWorld. So Tilikum was basically performing at SeaWorld for decades. And at one point, almost 60% of the whales at SeaWorld were like descendants of Tilikum, which is wild because he's kind of low-key an aggressive whale. And I feel like I missed something here. They also interviewed some people in this documentary. Like they interviewed the partner of a trainer at a place in Spain called Loro Parque, where they interviewed the partner of a trainer at Loro Parque. The trainer at Loro Parque was killed by an orca. And basically at SeaWorld, like one day in 2011, 2012, Tilikum, he, during a show, killed one of the trainers at SeaWorld, and it made headlines, and it resulted in OSHA regulating that there has to be a divide between the trainers and the whales at SeaWorld shows from then on. And that's basically all of the notes that I wrote. But the documentary just does a really good job at showing the history of like all of the people who worked at SeaWorld, what it was like, how kind of people getting injured was just part of the job. And you see all of these clips of like there was one trainer who was really experienced, who the orca just grabs his leg and pulls him down and pulls him back up and pulls him down and pulls him back up, and the guy like doesn't freak out. He just remains calm, and eventually he gets free of the orca, and he dips out of the water as soon as he can. And yeah, there's pretty much footage of like almost every single one of these accidents that they're referencing. And yeah, lots and lots of people died from working with orcas at these amusement parks.
But
And
the crazy thing is the trainers none of them knew. They were like, we were never told of any of these accidents. We had no idea the
Yeah.
history of, people dying. Like, obviously we knew that this is like a dangerous job. You're working with animals and like
Right.
large, massive animals, but like not once did they ever say, by the way, 30 something people before you have died from this.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I thought this was a very eye-opening documentary. I'm a little ashamed to say it because I knew about it when it came out 10 years ago, and I knew that the big thing was like, oh yeah, like killer whales should not be held in captivity and just like have nowhere to move. Like they're massive creatures and they live in these pools that are not very big. Like they're supposed to be wandering around in the ocean. And I knew about like that as far as the controversy goes. I did know about like some harm being done to people. I probably did know about the trainer who died at SeaWorld during the show. Mm-hmm. But I kind of just forgot, and I didn't. When we went into this, I wasn't thinking about that. But it wasn't just that. It was the fact that, like we just said, so many people were dying from working with these whales, and that was like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like that blew my mind. That many people died. And at one point, like they were interviewing a guy who was like an expert witness in the court case, where he was looking at a case from 20 years prior, and then he was looking at a case from like the present, and they asked him like, have we learned anything? And he was like, well, looking at both of these cases, clearly not.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
Yeah, it like goes beyond just like you said, captivity is bad. Like, yes, we know that. But it's like the lies, the covering up, the blaming people who have died.
Oh, yeah. Like the people were dead. And then the representatives from like SeaWorld or wherever would be like, oh, it was
their fault.
It was a trainer issue.
Yeah.
It was human error.
It's because
they did it.
They did the wrong timing. It's because she had a ponytail. She knows she should have had a bun, even though every single female trainer has had ponytails and it's never been an issue. Like, it's like... that's the worst part, is like just the horrible conditions of the whales, the lying, the covering up, just like the corruption within the park. The like fact that like the thing that gets me is, when you go around the park and they tell you fun facts and they say, orcas live 20 to 30 years. And it's like, no, they live like 80 plus years. They're just telling you that because our orcas die so fast.
Yeah.
Because they're not meant to be in these tiny pools. Yeah. And so it's like, wow, even as a visitor, you're getting lied to. Like, that's wild.
Yeah. And they were like, the documentarians were talking to different people, and they were all consistently saying like the same facts at SeaWorld or at just places that handled orcas. And then they would be talking to like an actual marine biologist, and they'd be like, like 80 years.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah, it's just like, they're just lying all the lies. It's crazy.
Yep. It really makes me realize that Jaws 3D was a pretty accurate movie.
Yeah.
Because in Jaws 3D, the problem, after they capture this shark at SeaWorld, is that the guy that owns SeaWorld is like, well, now I want to show the shark off to everybody today.
Yeah.
And turn it into an exhibit. And they're just like, he's just interested in money. And it's like, oh, that's
that's real life.
Not so far off from the truth. That's crazy.
I mean, they had to get it from somewhere.
Yeah. But the fact that SeaWorld let them film Jaws 3D at SeaWorld, and then it ended up just being like a totally on the nose depiction of what the management is actually like. That's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Any other thoughts before I jump into some facts? Yeah,
no other thoughts other than just, if you haven't seen it, I do recommend checking it out. It is a tough watch. It's very upsetting, and a lot of a lot of human injury, a lot of whale injury. But I think it's something that I wish I'd seen earlier. Truly.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah. So this came out 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2013. We are now in the year 2023.
Mm-hmm.
What's up? Like, what's new? I have so many questions. Like, does SeaWorld still have orcas? Is Tillicum still around? Do people, I don't know, have more in-depth training than they did way back when? Spout off some facts. I have so many things that I want to know.
I have some of those answers.
Okay.
So Tillicum is dead. He died in 2017.
That was, Tillicum is dead.
Unfortunately.
Tillicum passed away.
He passed away.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I should have said that better. He passed away. He's on to a better place.
When did this happen?
This happened in 2017.
Oh, wow.
And they said it was due to a bacterial lung infection.
Oh.
But I mean, can we trust that information?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
I'm like, can I trust any
Wait
of
a
these
minute.
facts?
Yeah.
I know, literally.
Okay, go on.
SeaWorld is still open today. I
Yeah,
will say
okay.
by August 2015, so that was 2 years after the release of this movie, SeaWorld's profits dropped, according to this fact, 84%.
Oh.
Yeah, it
Oh my
dropped
God.
significantly.
That's.
People were like, absolutely not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. That's so much.
Yeah.
What about the whales?
So there are still orcas.
Oh.
I went on YouTube because I was like, are there orca shows? Well, like, I went on YouTube and I went on their website.
Oh, yeah. This is a really interesting question because in the documentary they talk about how, some of these whales are young enough to where they maybe could be released in the wild, but some of them that are, they would need to be released. If they did get released, they would need to be released to like a big like open water reserve or
I don't
something
know.
monitored by science.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw a fact, and I don't know how long ago this was, so I don't know if the numbers have changed. But the fact was like there are like 53 or something orcas that are in captivity. 20 something are owned by SeaWorld. Like I said, I don't know when that fact came out, so I don't know if that's different.
Got it.
But yeah, take that with a grain of salt. There might be still 50 so-ish orcas
In the world?
Yes, in the world.
Oh, okay.
So I went on their website to see, what's SeaWorld offering. I have not been to SeaWorld since I was like
They had like rides.
10. Yeah.
They don't just have the whale show.
Right, they don't just have the whale
You can
show.
like pet a stingray.
Yeah, they still have the stingray thing. You can still, see dolphins and things like that. However, I wanted to know what was up with the orcas because I was like, like you said, are there orcas? What did the shows look like if they still have the shows? They do still have orcas and they still do orca shows. However, I did watch a video of like a full length orca experience, I think is what they're calling it, at SeaWorld. The trainers do not get in the pool, do not get in the water with the orcas. They will stand on the platforms, and the orcas will come up on the platforms like they used to. And, they give them the fish and they flip their little tail up.
Right.
But they do not at all get fully in the water with the orca. They just kind of go around the edges of the pool and have them do little tricks.
Got it. Yeah, and it's wild too because in the documentary you see all of the tricks that the people and the whales were doing, and it's like
it is pretty magical.
Cool. Yeah.
I know, you're like, what? Like every time I see that throw in the air, where they're
sitting on top of its nose.
Yeah,
or whatever?
well, when the orca has their feet and they
go
up
throws,
in the air and they do this huge dive.
It's dang. Yeah. The connection between human and animal is so real in that moment.
Yeah, but it's terrible.
It's like
that cognitive dissonance you experience.
I know, yeah.
You're like, my childhood, because I loved SeaWorld. SeaWorld was such a special place for me as a kid.
I know, I loved seeing whale shows.
Yes.
I would go to it was called Six Flags Marine World at the time.
Oh, I would not trust any Six Flags thing.
Well, they changed it to Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, and it's basically half rides, half zoo. So you've got you've got like lions, you've got big cats,
Oh my
you've
gosh.
got orangutans, you've
Yeah.
got a ton of birds. There's a bird show, there's a dolphin show, there's a whale show. They had Shuka.
Oh my gosh.
Not Shamu. They got knockoff Shamu, Shuka. And Shuka had the bent fin as
Yeah,
well. I
the
remember
collapsed dorsal
the collapsed
fin.
yes, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember watching that a lot and being like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they had walrus. They had a walrus show, or sorry, sea lion. And the sea lion show was always my favorite. And now I'm like,
I know, it's so sad. I know. So whenever I would go on family trips, it would, for some reason, like my mom would always take me and my sister up a day early before like my dad and other family members who were coming, because we always usually went as a big family with like my cousins and things like that. And so she would take me and my sister up like a day early, and that whole day was just me, her, and my sister at SeaWorld. Like it was like a fun, just like intimate day together, and I loved it. And I still have a picture of us petting and feeding the dolphins at SeaWorld.
Wow.
Like we got to do that experience. I like remember having like my French fries in the little Shamu kitty like container. Like,
oh man,
it's just so sad. And I'm like, I hate that we like supported that.
Yeah.
Like, but like,
we didn't know any better when we were children.
For
And
sure.
It feels wrong to say like I want to take those memories back because yeah, we were young and innocent.
For sure. It's definitely not our fault.
Yeah,
but
definitely when our kids ask or see. I don't know, watch this documentary or get woke about orcas, we can be like, yeah, we saw that stuff live.
I know.
It was wild.
When they were getting in the water with them. When
they used to get in the water back in my day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It'll be like Class Action Park.
Yeah. We're like, it was just cool.
It was just the thing back then.
Yeah, it was just the 2000s.
We didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bummer. So apparently, SeaWorld tried to get ahead of kind of the consequences that would stem from the release of this movie. And so what they did is they sent 50 potential film reviewers, like film critics.
Oh my God.
They sent them critiques of this movie, like trying to like discredit the claims that the director was making ahead of time before they had even seen the movie, so that they were like, skewed and biased and whatever. Which just like created way more attention.
Yeah,
it's like
I can
clearly
only
you're
imagine.
trying to like do something here. Like you're panicking.
Dang.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be really interested in seeing like a follow-up documentary of some kind. I'm sure somebody has covered the topic in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
I'd be really interested in watching something like that just to learn more about, what's going on in this world. We don't we get caught up in our own lives so much that it's like, I do not think about that. The fact that in some part of the world, like people have orcas in captivity and like use them for shows. Yeah. And it's like, and it's not just in America. Like Laura Parque was in like the Canary Islands of Spain. Yeah. And they talked about how at that park, like they just like people weren't as well trained.
Yeah. They shouldn't have the resources to make a facility that was ready for.
Right. And the person who died was the most capable of all of the trainers. Yeah. And that's like, oh, yeah. Ugh. Yeah, you just don't think about...
that it extends past
there
us.
Are so many... Yeah, there's just so many jobs out there in the world that people have. And it's like, somewhere out there, like, people are responsible for these creatures.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, I went on the website I wanted to see what they said about their conservation efforts, whether they like rescue, rehabilitate animals. Like, what are their claims that they're making now? Mm-hmm. I feel like a journalist.
Are they still breeding them?
Okay. This is not a fact that I wrote down. So after the release of this movie, they were still breeding. I don't know if they are now, but they continued to still breed orcas after this movie. I just don't know if it's still a thing,
Yeah,
or
wow.
if there are now restrictions.
Okay, but they're not anymore.
Oh, I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Supposedly.
I don't know. I
Oh.
don't know if if they've continued or if they've stopped.
Got
I
it.
feel like I don't know. I don't want to say anything that's like incorrect, so
Sure.
I have no clue. But
I'm looking it up.
yeah, so I looked at their website. They state on their website that they have rescued 40,000 plus sea animals, which I find kind of hard to believe. They also say that they engage in like plastic reduction, responsible food sourcing, reducing waste, investing in renewable energy, which like great if they are doing those things. It just it all felt very generic.
Yeah,
and like
they could have taken like a 6-pack ring out of the ocean one time and been like, look what we're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just, I wrote down, I was like, this seems very surface level. We have to put something because otherwise people will be upset. And
I am very curious about the people who currently work at SeaWorld.
I know.
Like, I want to know what's going on over there.
Like, why'd you take that job?
Yeah, right. Well,
I mean,
I would hope that at this point they're hiring people who are like trying to make things better.
Yeah.
I do see here in 2016, SeaWorld announced that they were ending their killer whale breeding program and that the orcas in their care are the last generation at the park.
Okay.
But given that these things can live very long lives, but in captivity seem to only live to be like 30, sounds like they'll be there
around
for a while.
for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
The last fact that I have is that Jurassic World that came out in 2015 by director Colin Trevorrow.
Colin Trevorrow or Trevorrow.
Trevorrow.
Yes, we all remember the movie. Yes.
Yes. He told Empire magazine that Blackfish was a big influence on the movie, and that the behavior of the Indominus Rex was based on Tilikum's behavior in captivity.
That makes so much sense, and I do like Jurassic World because it does kind of have this like, what if the park from Jurassic Park actually got made and people were actually there, and then kind of it runs so well in juxtaposition with the story of Blackfish and like the people who are running it are sketchy and people are like people just want to make a profit off of these animals, and we as the people are just like ignorant to the darkness behind the veil. And I love how in Jurassic World they literally have like a bunch of people at an ocean view attraction watching this massive dinosaur
jump out of the water
and eat
and
something.
they have like a splash zone just like SeaWorld.
And they have a splash zone. Yeah.
Oh
yeah, so like that's genius.
Yeah.
And then the second two Jurassic World movies sucked.
Yeah, they weren't great. But that's all that I have. Very great movie. Highly recommend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these poor orcas.
Yeah, thank you for assigning that. Like you said, I did not go into this thinking I would feel as depressed as I did at the end. It really was like heartbreaking.
I was like, depressing movie. You were like, I love depressing movies. And then we're watching it and you were like, oh no, I didn't want this.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't like this.
Like, you asked for
this
it.
is bad. No. Yeah, they were talking. They had like a neurologist talking about how smart whales are.
Yes,
how they've got
smart.
certain parts of their brains that
they're like
are
very
developed.
emotionally intelligent.
Yeah,
they have an extra part of the brain that like
that we don't even have.
Yeah. The worst part is like the female orcas
when they would separate the kid whales from the mother orca from the parents, and then they would they talked about how at a lot of different of these places that had orcas in captivity, it's like you can't just put random orcas together. They're from like different like subcultures of
they have their own
orcas.
languages.
They have their own languages. And that to me was like oh wow, like I really did not think about that. Like you can't just put, just because they're the same species really does not mean you
Yeah.
can just put them all in the same pen or whatever,
No.
and
Yeah.
that they're all just going to get along friendly, like, oh hey fellow whale, what
Yeah.
up? Like no, they were very antagonistic towards each other.
No, yeah. It makes so much sense. Like now that I have like worked with horses and like been around horses, have like taken care of horses, like you really cannot just do that. Like there's dominant horses, and there's sometimes where like you have a dominant horse that will just terrorize another horse, and it's like you have to separate them. You need to figure out a different place for the other horse because like they're getting hurt. Like they will get, like these other horses might hurt the other horses, or like they'll eat all their food and then they're not eating, and then like it's just you really have to like be careful and like when you're putting different animals together because they have their different dynamics.
It's interesting that we like know that about like these land animals, but then when it comes to the ones of the sea,
Well, like,
we're
they're all
just like,
fish.
they're all fish. Yeah, just throw them in. It's fine.
Yeah. Do you think it's
We
like,
just threw out the whole playbook.
yeah. The language thing is really interesting. I want to learn more about the language thing because I'm like, are there like French orcas, and then like,
oh my god,
like where, like at what where do you draw the line of
like
where
the
different
orcas
like
in the
languages
Pacific
come in?
are speaking different language than those in the Atlantic.
Yeah, it's like where is the line drawn? When do you get different, languages?
Yeah.
I find that interesting. But yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
that's all I have.
great choice.
Yay.
Yeah, really underestimated the depressing factor.
The impact of that movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, well, shall we move on?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Sorry, I kind of have to burp. So I was assigned the show Invincible, when did this come out?
2021.
Okay, got you. 2021. So basically, Invincible is an animated show that follows a young teen named Mark and his superhero dad named Nolan, aka Omni-Man. So Nolan is basically like this world's version of Superman. And he gets excited when Mark begins to develop his own powers. He's like, awesome, my son has powers. He's Viltrumite. And so he's like, my son is part Viltrumite. And so like, it's great that he's, developing the same powers that I have.
Oh, yeah, that's a alien species.
Yeah.
From Viltrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so at first, this show seems to be like this heartwarming show about this young boy being trained by his father to become like the next big hero. He's the upcoming generation of heroes. However, it takes a turn and turns into a dark story when out of the blue, Nolan, aka Omni-Man, brutally murders a group of prominent superheroes called the Guardians of the Globe. And so the show turns into this like mystery where we're left questioning like, why did he do that? Why did he kill this group? Like they're fellow friends of his, we thought. And will he get caught? Like everyone's kind of investigating this murder. Will he get caught for it? And also like, what will this mean for young Mark? We also...
And his mom.
Yes. So what does this mean for his family? We also get to explore kind of the lives of some of these other superhero characters that exist in this world, some of which we find out might be a little bit more corrupt than they appear. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out.
And how many episodes did we watch?
We watched 4.
Yes.
But they're like 45 minutes long?
Yeah, they're like 45 minutes long, and the first season is only 8 episodes.
Okay, got you. So we're like halfway through.
Yes.
Okay. So my thoughts on the show. Overall, I'm enjoying the show. When it started out, like I said, it seemed to be this like heartwarming, oh, superheroes, like they're so great, they're doing this thing, young Mark is getting his powers, and I was like, boring, I don't want to watch this is not fun. And then we finally got to the part where Omni-Man like murders everybody, and I was like, yes, bring the corruption.
Yeah, what was your reaction to seeing that? Like, were you surprised? Were you like, wait, whoa?
I mean, I was like, oh, okay, we're getting into something different. Like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. But here's what I will say, though. I think here's what's keeping me from thinking that this is, like, a great show. Because I have watched The Boys, which is just off the bat craziness. Everyone's wild. These superheroes are like off the charts. What are they doing? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like it just throws you right in, and it's constant, just like like shocking thing after shocking thing. That now coming to this, like, yes, that was a great moment of like, oh snap, like Omni-Man's killing all these people. But at the same time, there's not enough of that shock factor because I've been exposed to it already in some other form of content, that I'm like, I'm finding myself through most of the show, I'm kind of like, we can, like, let's get past this. Like, it's a little bit boring. Like, anytime Mark's doing doing superhero stuff, I'm like, I really don't care that much, to be honest. I don't care what he's doing. I don't care about his romance with like Amber, or like I don't care about what these other Guardians are really, like, the new Guardians are doing. I'm like, I just want to see the corruption. I just want to see the bad, and there's not enough bad.
Yeah, no, I that's interesting because his romance with Amber and like his life, I do think the show does a very good job at depicting, like, so I just have so many thoughts right now. It's animated like, I did read this as a piece of trivia. It's intentionally animated like a Saturday morning cartoon from the 2000s, like that era of animation, like DC shows that existed back then. It's intentionally meant to be reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
And I really like that because it plays around with, like, it plays with the genre. Like, you're expecting it to be like, oh, watching kind of, the corny kind of thing, and then it ends up being like really dark and mature and violent, and you're like, whoa, okay, did not see that coming, and that's different. And so his romance, or well, no, sorry, not at the romance yet. So like when he first kind of tries to be a hero and he really struggles at it, and he's basically having like a Saving Private Ryan moment where it's like people around him are just getting killed and he has no idea what to do because he thought, being a superhero was all, fun and games, because that's like what we see in our corny Marvel movies, for example. And now it's like, no, people are actually getting brutally murdered in front of him. I think it plays really well with that. Like, The Boys is like, oh yeah, the superheroes are actually like really bad people, and what does that mean in our world? Whereas this is like, oh yeah, if superheroes actually existed like in your Saturday morning cartoons, this is what would be happening. And that, I think, is a really interesting concept overall. And so his romance with Amber, this girl at his high school, I think is really interesting because he's kind of having this like double life Spider-Man moment, which is like, classic, like we're familiar with that, but we have this threat looming overhead, which is like, we know that his dad killed basically the Justice League, and that like we don't know what's up with that. His dad seems like a very dangerous person, and what does that mean for the whole world? What does that mean for the people that are closest to him? It gives me a very like, oh, like what is gonna, like, okay, he's got this romance, but like what is that, what's gonna happen to all of this, because something's got to give with what's going on with Omni-Man.
I mean, I get that, but still, it's just like, I don't know. And in the Mark scenes, it's just not hitting for me. Like, I'm finding myself like just like not being stimulated enough, and I'm like, I know this is all gonna culminate to something eventually, but in this moment where it's just kind of us establishing him and who he is, and like him developing relationships, I'm like, all right. I'm like, show me something else. I think what's more intriguing to me, what is really more intriguing to me, is the mom.
The mom.
I love the mom. I love the mom so much, and
she could have been. She seemed like she'd be like a throwaway character at the beginning, but it's like, because most moms in this genre kind of are. But sorry, go on.
I think that's what it is. I think it's like looking at Mark, like you said, we've seen it before. It's a very Spider-Man situation. We know exactly, like, he's gonna struggle with relationships with normal, like, not, well, I hate to say normal, with, like, people who don't have superpowers, because, like, he has superpowers, he has responsibility. Like, you know, it's like, been there, done that. I don't need to see it. With the mom, I feel like we don't get that perspective of, like, what does it mean when, like, one, your husband is a superhero, so you have the stress of, like, will your husband come home? Now your son has superhero powers. Now you have this double stress. On top of that, you learn that, you know, all these people get murdered and your husband's the only one who survived. You're like, hold up. Like, oh no, what happened there?
Is
like,
my husband who I think
yeah,
he is?
is he? And you know he's not fully telling you the truth. You know, wives just know, but also Omni-Man's doing a terrible job, I feel like, of, like, not being shady. Also, you have this demon character who's coming around, and the demon character's like a detective, and the demon's like, I'm gonna let you know, Omni-Man, he's sus. And she's like, oh my gosh. So it's like, she is so much more of an intriguing character. And I just, like, I want to be sitting in her shoes. Like, I mean, not like literally. No, I don't mean literally. I meant, like, I want the show to be from her perspective the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I do think the show does do a really good job of, like, fleshing out other characters that are not just Mark.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I totally get your point that, like, Mark is a bit more of a, like, we've seen this before type of character.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you know, his dad is basically Superman and he's basically got Superman powers. We never really seen, like, that Superman honing his powers for the first time. Well, okay. Maybe we've seen that a million times.
I was like, okay.
But I don't. There's just something about it that is different, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's part of it that speaks to me, but at the same time, it's like, well, maybe it's because it's just the same, you know, straight male hero story that has been resonating with people like me for since the dawn of superheroes.
Yeah. It's not giving me enough. And, like, sure, yes, they are fleshing out other characters, but at the end of the day, it is still, the show's called Invincible, and that is Mark's superhero name. Like, it is still a show about him,
right?
And so it's like, I don't know. And I imagine, even, you know, if/when, you know, he learns that his dad murdered all these people or whatever, like, I don't know, for some reason it's like his reaction I don't care about as much. Like, I'm not eager to see, like, what's Mark gonna do. I'm like,
what's
the mom?
Yeah.
What's the mom gonna, like, oh my god, like, this is gonna be devastating to her. Like, that is what I care about most. And I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
I totally get that. I think that makes a ton of sense because, I mean, I don't even need to say it. Like, you've already said it.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've already seen this, and it's been a while since I watched it. But I'm like, are you not interested to see where this goes? From
no,
here?
I am interested to continue watching, and I will keep watching. I like I said, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it enough that, like, I'm intrigued, and I want to continue to see, like, what's going on, especially because this robot character that we learned might be a little bit corrupt. I'm like, hold the phone, because I love the robot. He seems so sweet. I was like, wow, he's great. And then I was like, oh my gosh, is he evil? So I need to know what's going on with him. Like, these are the people that I care about. I care about the mom, and I care about this robot character. And, like, that's really it.
Nice.
Everybody else, I don't really care about. I don't even care about Omni-Man.
Yeah. I mean, Omni-Man, yeah, he's such an unlikable character.
He's so unlikable.
And I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The way he had me livid in this last episode when he came home and his wife was working and he was like, why are you working when you have, like, a husband who saves the world? I was like, get the heck up out of here.
Yeah.
And she was like, excuse me? Like, I can work if I want to work, and I love doing work, and I'm good at what I do. I don't need you. I'm not just your wife. I was like, go ahead and tell him. This is why I love her.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
all right.
yeah, that's my thoughts.
Okay, well, I signed this to you because season 2 of Invincible is now finally coming out
Yeah.
at the tail end of 2013.
2013.
Sorry, 2023. My bad.
We time traveled.
Yeah. So the first season came out. It started coming out March of 2021. So it's been almost 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. But now it's finally coming back. Interesting fact here. A month into its first season, or I guess actually as soon as the season finale of the first season came out, it was announced that the show was being renewed by Amazon for 2 more seasons.
Nice.
Yeah. Or at least 2 more seasons.
Yeah.
Which is like incredible. It's like, that was like a month in to it coming out. It's like, 2 more seasons just got, like, not just 1, 2.
Yeah.
Got to be very confident for that. The show is based on a comic by Robert Kirkman, who is the creator of The Walking Dead. And interesting about that is that Mark and each member of the Guardians of the Globe are voiced by somebody who was on The Walking Dead.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Wait, of the dead Guardians of the Globe or the live, the new
dead,
Guardians?
yeah,
of
the
the
dead
Globe?
Guardian, dead Guardians of the Globe.
Okay.
And Mark is voiced by Stephen Yeun, who played Glenn on The Walking Dead for a very long time. So it's interesting. What I thought was kind of interesting was that the production company is Skybound Entertainment, who is known for doing The Walking Dead, and I'm like, okay, so it's like, and Robert Kirkman is like the chairman of that production company. I'm like, okay, like that's cool. Like he's adapting his own works, but like, yeah, y'all have experience making The Walking Dead. You do not have experience making a whole animated show. And I thought that was really interesting. Like I didn't read any specific facts about like what that struggle or like process was like, but you can kind of like while watching this show see how like when you compare the animation of this with like Harley Quinn, it seems like, because Harley Quinn is like DC animation, and DC animation has been animating for a very, very long time. You can really tell the difference in the quality of the animation. Like in the Invincible animation is not as good, but the storytelling is like on 10.
But I feel like that adds to what you were talking about like the whole early morning cartoons style. It's like, some like back in the day the animation was like a little rough.
And it is all very, very well done. To fit that style. But I did think that it was pretty interesting. Like if you look at their portfolio, it's like, oh yeah, there's really no hand-drawn animation on here. So Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg are producers of this show.
Nice.
However, the show, it was originally announced that it was going to be a live action, like that the comic book was going to be adapted into a live action film at Universal, which was going to be directed by Evan and Seth. But then the animated series got made, but then it was announced that the live action movie actually is still in the works with Evan and Seth. They just, it's probably going to just do a live action adaptation of the show. So it's like, I guess, really no rush to get that made, right?
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, we'll see.
I don't know that I would want a live action version.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, then that's the boys.
No, but see, like this is the point that I'm trying to make. Like, yes, it's superheroes, but violent, and I think that's as far as the connection goes between this and The Boys are, other than the fact that they both come out on Prime Video. But I think they're doing 2 completely different things.
I mean, they're doing 2 completely different things. I recognize that. I guess what I'm saying is like, I don't know. I feel like what makes this work. What makes this work in tandem with having another piece of content that does show superheroes doing bad things, being violent, is that it is animated and like that it has its own medium and like is presenting this thing within this different form of medium. I think if you bring it to live action, like I said, how about like my feelings about coming to it, it's like it's not giving me enough. Like I don't know. I feel like what makes this work is like, or like what makes, sorry, words. I'm like trying to think, trying to process while I'm saying. I feel like if you bring it to live action, it's just not going to pack the same punch. Like it's just not going to be as impactful and as shocking, because it's like, if I want to see a superhero do something corrupt, why wouldn't I just go to the extreme end? Like, why wouldn't I just go all in and watch like The Boys, where I'm seeing like really corrupt stuff? Like, I don't know. It just feels like that's what makes this good, is because it is, like you said, a cartoon that's giving you that juxtaposition of, well, it appears to be this like, early morning cartoon thing, but it's actually this dark thing. Like that's, it's not going to have that same kind of feel. Yeah. Like, how do you get that same feel live action? Like, how do you get that whole wholesome feel while also being dark?
I mean, I think it makes a lot more sense for Invincible to exist in the animation medium, because it feels so much like this homage to DC animation specifically.
Yeah.
Because like if you go back to like Marvel animation, we can't quite point to, there's like the X-Men show and the Spider-Man show, and that's really kind of the extent of that for me.
Yeah.
But then when you go to like DC animation, it's like DC animated films have been coming out consistently for the past like 30 years, and they're all really good. And like DC shows have been coming out, like we had the Batman animated series, there was the Superman animated series, there was the Justice League, there was Justice League Unlimited, there was Young Justice. Like they've been doing this for such a long time that it really, Invincible works so well because it is like parodying that, and it's like that's where DC specifically like really shines, is in the animation medium. And then when you point to like Marvel really shines in the live action medium, and that's kind of like what The Boys is doing. Is taking what we're used to with Marvel and flipping it on its head and turning it into this violent thing. So I do get that, but my point earlier is just that like the Invincible, if it was turned into live action, wouldn't just be The Boys, because the stories themselves, yes, they're about like, they're violent superhero properties, but the stories themselves are very different. Their worlds are extremely different. Like the world of The Boys, it's like all heroes are basically terrible people and are very dangerous and should be avoided at all costs. The world of Invincible is basically the DC universe, but there's just one incredibly bad, like there's one hero who is Omni-Man, who is basically the same character as Homelander or Superman, and he's the only person that's sketchy. It's and then the government is like also sketchy, which I think is a really interesting angle that they're doing in Invincible as well. But
well, that's been done in live action superheroes before.
Well, sure. My point really is just that like they are different. Like if Invincible was live action, I think that it would stand apart from The Boys in a very significant way.
Yes, storyline. Yes, they are different. I'm not trying to say that they're the same. But do you get what I mean? Like, you just explained exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No,
I think it loses its sparkle.
That's why I think it works so well as animation. If they made the live action film, they'd probably need to make it in like 10 years from now. Like it wouldn't work if it came out now.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why I was like, I don't know that I would want to. I don't want to see a live action version. I don't know that I would want that, because I think it loses its sparkle when you take it away from that animation. Like when you, I just don't think it's good enough to be a live action.
No,
right now.
I mean it's a perfect statement existing in animation. I think in 10 years, I don't know, maybe James Gunn's going to get the DC universe off the ground, and people are going to be actually interested in that as in a live action sense. Then I think if DC Studios really gets it together and gets people excited about the DC universe in live action, then whenever the Invincible live action film, like the Invincible live action film should come out if that happens. If that does not happen, then the Invincible live action film may not land as well. But I think if DC in live action becomes like this big part of the zeitgeist and we all get excited about Superman again, which I have my doubts, but if it does happen, then Invincible in live action would be great.
Why does everything have to be live action though?
No, it doesn't. But I mean, they were gonna make this in live action originally anyway, so
I say they scrap it.
whatever. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I love Seth and Evan, but like,
yeah, realistically,
Yeah.
like it probably will get scrapped.
yeah, I think,
But we'll see.
Just leave it as is. Just don't touch it. Like,
Yeah.
it's great as it is.
It's probably. I mean, they're probably just leaving it on the table. They're not making any definitives. They're just like,
Yeah.
like they don't even have to. It's not like they're under contract to like get that made by a certain day, or at least I don't know. That maybe they are, and we just don't know about it. But it's like,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's pressed about getting that made now.
Yeah.
If they've got Evan and Seth attached to it, it's like those
Which
are probably
is crazy,
the
'cause
best
didn't they work
people.
on like the boys
They did.
animated,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
animated boys. The boys.
No, they worked on live action
live
boys
action
too.
one, too?
Yeah, they're producers for that. Seth Rogen has like
Oh my
cameos in the boys as himself.
I
Yeah,
feel like I've seen that when I watch it. I don't know. I'm only on like second season, and I forgot.
but like
what happened.
given that like Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg are like killing it right now. Like they just helped out with producing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and that was fantastic.
No, I'm not
It's
at
like
all saying it's like
them being attached to
Yeah.
this movie. Like whether the movie gets made now or later, it's like just keep them attached to it, and that is the best chance it's gonna ever have.
No, for sure. I'm not at all saying like I don't think they could do a great job. Like it's Seth and Evan. Like I absolutely everybody knows I love me some Seth Rogen. I love Seth Rogen. But I love the things that they come out with majority of the time. I won't say all of the time because they come out with some stuff that I've hated.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, like, apart from who's creating it, just like overall, I personally wouldn't be excited about an Invincible movie because I think, like I said, it would like kind of lose what makes it special.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I hear you now.
Yeah,
I get it. And I'm saying that I'd be pretty into it if in 10 years we were all pretty into, DC.
In 10 years, will we even care about superheroes?
I don't know. That's a thing. That's a thing. It's kind of like how Daniel Craig was talking about how after Austin Powers came out, he was like, they just turned James Bond into a joke. And it's like James Bond kind of like lost that luster, and it had to change and it had to adapt. And I think that same effect is what's happening with The Boys and Invincible on DC and Marvel, is that they're being forced to get better,
Yeah.
And Marvel, like mainline Marvel, MCU, kind of struggling right now, but like Spider-Man, they're killing it right now. Like it's never been a better time to be a Spider-Man fan. So, and we'll see what happens with DC. All the live action superhero stuff kind of struggling, but I think in other mediums, like DC and Marvel are, well, maybe fingers crossed, but at least with Spider-Man, and with like the Harley Quinn show at DC, like I think they are pushing themselves to do different kinds of things and like tell different kinds of stories other than the ones that we've already seen, and like the fatigue and the the violence that we're getting from these other things, I think is like sending a direct challenge to the status quo at DC and Marvel to do better.
Yeah, for sure. Like the only way for, I think, this genre, like you said, this genre to survive is we need way more complexity. Like I think Spider-Man, it's adding a lot of nuance because it's becoming more diverse, more inclusive. Like it's just like highlighting so much more of what Spider-Man can be, like and like what a superhero is, and even like Miles, like the fact that like Miles is like uncle, well, at least in like across the spider, was it Into the Spider-Verse, across the first one,
Into the Spider-Verse,
Into the Spider-Verse, like his uncle's like a villain. It's like no, but like
his uncle's a villain in the PlayStation games as well. Well, kind of, like sort of, he's kind of turns over a new leaf, but like he was like a bad guy.
Yeah, and it's like this turmoil of like, that's my family, that's
Yeah.
like someone I love, and they're the bad guy, and like
Yeah.
what?
I
Like,
love Miles Morales. It really feels like
Yeah.
we're only scratching the surface with him right now, which is really exciting.
yeah, yeah, um, like that, and then like showing characters who are deeply flawed, who are making mistakes, who are terrible. And you're like, how did they have power and they're terrible? Oh no, like what does that mean? Because we all know that exists.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it just needs it. There just needs to be so much more complexity in this whole like cookie cutter. Everyone's perfect.
Yeah.
No one can make mistakes. Everything just solves itself.
Like I just
so
watched
easily.
I just watched all of Loki season 2 basically today. And I really just did not take to it.
Yeah.
Everybody was saying like, "Oh yeah, like I think, Loki's the best Marvel show that we got going right now." Our
right now.
friends. Yeah.
Our friends?
No, like our friends.
Oh no!
They told me after the season finale of Loki came out, like, dude, Loki is the best Marvel show. And
It seemed like a bunch
that
of
was like-
nonsense.
I
It
was-
was like pointless.
yeah, and like I trust our friends' opinions, so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like I gotta go get caught up on Loki. I gotta
Yeah.
go watch it, and I watched it, and I was like,
I don't get it.
like it was kind of like cookie cutter. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
feel like I'm just filling the time, filling the space.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in stories that feel like they need to be told, and nothing going on in Marvel right now feels like it needs to be told.
Yeah.
And part of why I'm hopeful about what's going on at DC Studios with James Gunn at the helm is because he's explicitly said, like, it's all about the story. The story has to be good. And, like, I think James Gunn is a smart guy and recognizes that, like, if we don't care about the story that's being told, then it's not going to resonate with audiences. And
Yeah.
DC, in and of itself, like, this is the make or break moment. If he can't do it, then, like, DC just kind of is in the
Ceases
can.
to exist.
Yeah, like we will not care.
Yeah.
So this is like this is a very Hail Mary kind of thing going on.
Oh my gosh, that's
over
so much
there.
pressure. Is James Gunn okay?
Honestly, he seems great. Like he's like
I'd be so stressed.
James Gunn, like he seems like he is in his element. He's like, this is it's
I mean,
like
he has
he's
nothing to
worked.
lose.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like he just came off of a Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, which like is basically universally beloved.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, we're like that's the man for the job. Like he made interesting, compelling characters within a very cookie cutter universe that we cared about. Like if anybody can do it, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I am looking forward to what comes out of that because we watched the video of like, what their planned first phase was, and he seems like, like we got to figure it out. Like he seems like he knows exactly what he's doing. He's not nervous about it. He's just like, they gave me creative control. Boom, baby. Like we're making it. And like
I would have nightmares every day.
That's what they need is that like unified creative like that. I mean, I know Kevin Feige is over at Marvel, but when you just look at like what everything that happened with Phase 4, and there's a whole story there. I heard about this book that came out recently that really focuses on like the making, like the rise and fall of the MCU and like what all the reasons were, like by Bob Iger leaving and then Bob Chapek coming in, and then like the pandemic happened, and then like Kevin Feige's under all this pressure to get all these shows made, and he's always kind of been this like background director kind of guy on all of these things, but now he's being spread really thin, and now we're just like lacking all of this like unity that we're used to, and it's like I don't know, it's upsetting to see how much kind of everything sucks at Marvel MCU, at least right now. So it seems like they're aware and that they're like pumping the brakes a little bit. Next year, the only MCU movie coming out is going to be Deadpool 3, which is going to have Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in it as well. Mm-hmm. And that's like, okay, you know what? If any Marvel movie is going to be coming out next, if it's just going to be one, like that's the one that I think like, regardless of whether you're a fan of the MCU or not, you'll probably go see that, right? So, anyway, there's clearly a lot that we can say about superheroes. What about Invincible? Are we done with that?
I don't have anything else. If you have facts,
no, I read all my facts. This is rated on IMDb in the top 250 shows. Where do you think it is?
87.
97.
Oh, that's close.
Wow, 87.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you said that high.
I mean, why not?
Fair enough. Yeah, well, so those are all my facts, and I hope you would like to continue watching the show with me.
I do.
Sweet.
Like you said, it's a good Sunday morning show. Despite its violence, which is honestly not even that bad. In my opinion.
No, I mean we don't need to dive into it. There are some violent moments that are like, for sure. God,
Omni-Man killing the Guardians was like that was a lot.
It was really pushing the envelope. Yeah.
But
anyway,
but they're few and far between.
Would you recommend it to somebody else who has never seen it before?
Yeah, I would.
Sweet. All right, I love that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool.
Yep.
All right. So, shall we get into this week's swaps?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
All right. Who should go first?
You can go first.
All right. Do you want something funny, or do you want a martial arts film?
Let's do funny, because we had a lot of action with Invincible.
All right. I'm giving you Rat Race.
What is that? Sounds so familiar.
It came out in like 2001.
Yeah.
It's so 2001.
Yeah.
I'm like shocked you haven't seen it. But as soon as you told me that you hadn't seen it, I was like, oh my God, like I got to write that down, because it just seems like, like when I think about 2001, I think about like live action Scooby-Doo, Rat Race.
Yeah.
And the fact that you haven't seen it, I'm like, oh my God, like, yeah, we got to watch this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to give you something that is a very simple movie, kind of a comedy, but also very stress-inducing, in my opinion.
All right.
It's called Shiva Baby.
What was that in?
Shiva.
Shiva?
Baby. Shiva, like a Jewish funeral.
Oh, okay.
Like a Shiva.
Shiva Baby.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Shiva Baby.
Shiva Baby. This is a movie?
It is. It's really short. It's an hour and 17 minutes long.
Oh, wow. When did it come out?
2020. It's recent.
Okay. In the past 3 years.
Hold on. Let me double check.
Okay.
Something
It sounds interesting.
Yeah. I've only seen it once, so I'm excited to rewatch it. Came out in 2020.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So then that means next week we will have Rat Race and Shiva Baby. Mm-hmm. Random combo. But that's what we live for here at the Content Swap Podcast.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We will catch you next time. Have a good week. Mm-hmm. Stay content.
Oh my gosh. Silly.
All right. Bye.
Bye.